The government's putting fluoride in my water supply.
I'm just going to tell it like it happened. So I'm a skeptical guy. I'm skeptical of a lot of things. I'm skeptical of the government and the things that it does and tells us. I'm skeptical of the conspiracy theorists that, talk about chemtrails and fluoride in the water. And I'm skeptical. That doesn't mean I disbelieve automatically, whether it's the government or the conspiracy theorists or anyone. And it doesn't mean I believe automatically. It means that there's a long list of things that I will look into someday when I have reason to, depending on the crisis level of the subject we're talking about. And fluoride in the water has been one that I have put off because it doesn't really seem to affect me or bother me or have much immediate bearing on my life. And today is not going to be the day where we do a deep dive into the topic to find the truth. Today we're going to talk about it from a different angle that allows us to completely sidestep the entire conspiracy, or not, or lack thereof, of the topic, and make an important point that sort of hit me in the face when I was browsing social media. So check this out. I was, scrolling through my Facebook feed, and I see this photo. Some psychiatrists believe we could save tens of thousands of lives a year with a very simple, low-cost intervention, putting small amounts of lithium into our drinking water, the way we put fluoride in to protect our teeth. Boom. Like, right there. My brain goes from ignoring fluoride as a real problem to, oh, now I understand at least one of the objections that a lot of people have to this practice. And then I realized that my acceptance of it, and probably most people's acceptance of it, is just because it's always been that way. Or, at least for most of their life, it's just been a thing that has never really affected them in a way that they realize. Society is not falling apart. People aren't running around with mass soft bone diseases and pitted teeth and all that stuff and dying when they drink more water and things like that. And, like we've talked about a lot lately with a lot of other subjects, you just sort of accept the reality you're presented with as normal. You don't really necessarily feel the need to question every little facet of your reality unless you're given reason to. Like with circumcision, we did a recent interview on that. It's just one of those things. You've always existed with your penis in a certain state of affairs, and you never really see a reason to question how it got that way until you do. But somebody discussing potentially adding a new thing, puts us in a mindset of questioning whether we want someone else making a decision about what goes into the water that we drink. And it's a frame of mind that we should have been in with fluoride as well, right? With anything that they put in the water, we should question whether we consent to that being done to us or to our water supply, right? So that's the frame shift that I had. It wasn't me, I still haven't really dove into the massive amounts of data for and against fluoride in the water being a good or a bad thing, a helpful thing, or a government attempt to pacify all the male populations. We don't need to get into any of that today. I haven't either, because we already have enough to talk through it from an angle that I haven't really heard people talk through before, but, maybe I missed it somewhere. So I first started by pulling up the Vox article in question, where it talks through, I'll just read it. Lithium is a potent psychiatric drug, one of the primary prescribed medications for bipolar disorder, but it's also an element that occurs naturally all over the Earth's crust, including in bodies of water. That means that small quantities of lithium wind up in the tap water you consume every day. Just how much is in the water varies quite a bit from place to place. Naturally, that made researchers curious. Are places with more lithium in the water healthier mentally? Do places with more lithium have less depression or bipolar, or, most importantly of all, fewer suicides? A 2014 review of studies concluded that the answer was yes. 4 out of 5 studies reviewed found that places with higher levels of trace lithium had lower suicide rates. And Nasir Ghemi, the Tufts psychiatry professor who co-authored that review, argues that the effects are large. High lithium areas, he says, have suicide rates 50 to 60% lower than those of low lithium areas. In general, in the US, lithium levels are much higher in the Northeast and East Coast. In the Northeast and East Coast, interesting, and very low in the Mountain West. He told me on a new episode of the Vox podcast, Future Perfect, quote, and suicide rates track that exactly. Much lower suicide rates in the Northeast, and the highest rates of suicide are in the Mountain West. If you apply that 50-60% reduction to the US, where about 45,000 people died by suicide in 2016, you get a total number of lives saved at around 22,500 to 27,000 a year. That's likely too high since you can't reduce suicide rates in places that are already high lithium. So, Ghemi and a number of other eminent psychiatrists are making a pretty remarkable claim. They think we could save tens of thousands of lives a year with a very simple low-cost intervention, putting small amounts of lithium, amounts likely too small to have a significant side effect, into our drinking water the way we put fluoride in to protect our teeth. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll link it in the description if you guys are interested. But hearing somebody discuss how they're going to medicate me without my input or consent is kind of enraging and scary. And this is making me apply it to the fluoride discussion. Even though I haven't done the research, I don't believe any of the conspiracy theories. I don't disbelieve any of the conspiracy theories. I'm pretty much, unknowledgeable and neutral on the topic at this point. But ignoring all of that, just the principle that someone else has made a decision to medicate me for my own good without my knowledge, consent, participation, requesting it with fluoride kind of pisses me off now. I mean, seriously. So I went and pulled up, I went and did some research that most people probably never do, into the water report for the city I live in. Well, my city buys most of its water from Dallas city of Dallas, Texas. And this is their water report. And it shows that their fluoride level is average of 0.6 parts per million. And then it lists the source of the contaminants: erosion of natural deposits, water additive which promotes strong teeth, and discharge from fertilizer and aluminum factories. So, there's a couple things that I want to, and I'm not doing a deep dive here. I just wanted to skim the surface to figure out what the hell was going on, how much of this stuff they were adding without my consent or participation or not. Like, they're literally treating me like I was a patient. Like, I go to my dentist and I'm like, hey, I've got, these teeth problems. They're like, oh, well, here's some fluoride to rub on your teeth or whatever. Like, you go to a doctor and you ask them to treat you. You consent to treatment and they treat you. These people are treating me just because they feel they have the holy God-given right to. They are literally treating us, medically treating us by adding fluoride to the water. Ignore all the conspiracy theories. That's messed up. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. No thanks. So I did some stuff. I found out that Texas has one of the higher natural concentrations of fluoride in the water to begin with. Like, it's a naturally occurring thing. The area I live in isn't particularly high, but some areas in Texas are super high and some areas in Texas have none. The EPA says that 4 milligrams per liter, I believe is how that works, is the maximum. That's the cutoff. If you hit that point, they're going to crack down on you, right? So going back to Dallas, we're in the We're averaging 0.6, so, you know, well under that. The EPA also recommends, like, as like a soft goal, like it would be good if you kept it under 2, because some places naturally have really high levels of fluoride, levels that can cause issues. Like if you drink the stuff over 20 years, you might end up with soft bone issues and issues where you have your bones are more easily broken. And little kids have issues with their teeth actually having the, strange enough, opposite effect, where they start getting pits and white spots on their teeth from too much fluoride. And anyway, so I'm not doing, like I said, I'm not trying to do a deep dive into this. I'm not trusting any of these sources. I'm not, you know, I'm not getting into any of that. I'm just, and apparently a large source of fluoride pollution in Texas comes from these coal power plants. Stone glass manufacturers, chemicals, paper plants, all this stuff. And they pump it into the air, and then, you know, the plants absorb it from the air, of course. So that's another way that it gets in. It also can get into your body through toothbrushing with fluoride-based toothpaste, from Teflon, I think, pans, and you know, there's all sorts of ways that you're going to get fluoride. And as with any substance, and this is what a lot of the problems I have when I talk to the conspiracy people, and I don't use conspiracy theorist as like a pejorative, like an insult, like some people do. I'm just using it as a way to identify the people that I'm talking about. One of the things that bothers me with some of those people is that they ignore a very important point, that the dose makes the poison. So you can have, you know, the most deadly substance known to man and give a person a small enough amount of it and it will literally do nothing. So you can't talk about this issue without talking about the doses. Now, when you get into, this is the thing, like, now you have to get into, you have to like do this deep dive research project into looking at these, you know, 60 years of studies that talk about the doses and what the thresholds are for when it's going to hurt. And not only that, but that these are studies over thousands of people and everybody responds differently. So your tolerance might be lower or higher than everyone else's for your dose of fluoride causing issues for you. The point is that when the government decides to medicate you like some sort of patient, you don't have say in it. You don't have control on it beyond like just being careful not to drink anything with tap water, which is probably difficult. Sodas, by the way, also have fluoride in them, some of them. Fruit juice, grapes, this stuff often contains fluoride. So to a certain point, a reasonable person just has to ignore this. But seeing this, oh, and then we have reporters complaining about these activists that are just annoying the crap out of the Dallas City Council, trying to get them to stop adding fluoride. Okay, sorry, I'm just kind of talking all over the place. I didn't plan this out. I just wanted to tell you the story kind of as it happened, as my browser tabs opened, right? So naturally, the natural water source here, as natural as I could find that it was, before all the you know, pumping fluoride stuff into the air for the industrial centers or whatnot, is about 0.35. And so my county adds about 0.3 or 0.35 extra to get it to the EPA's recommended level of 0.7 for good tooth health. So the city of Dallas, and the city I live in, has made an executive decision over my life that they need to care for me as if I were some sort of patient of theirs. Like I've asked them or consented to them to just handle my life like some obnoxious parent making a decision for me. They've decided to add to medicate me. And that bothers me. And and I never thought about it that way until I saw this article where these people have the hubris, the gall, to think that anyone would ever have the right to medicate the mass population with lithium in an attempt to make some people commit suicide less. So I just had like a little mini mind blown explosion, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Tell me what you think in the comments, and if you have any recommendations for a water filter, maybe put that down there too. Thanks.